Our conversations continue here at Davos 2024. This is the 54th annual meeting of the World Economic Forum. And joining me now is the man who's running the show, quite literally, Borge Brende. Always a pleasure. Many thanks for joining us and wish you a very happy new year.
Thank you. The same to you. And thank you for re-inviting me to your show.
So 54 meeting, how many prime ministers?
Currently, we are 57 presidents and prime ministers, but maybe when this show is over, we will be down to 54, you know?
Okay, but let's talk about the theme that you have put together for Davos this year, rebuilding trust. And you're asking people two important questions, whether 2024 is going to be a year of a perma-crisis or it's going to turn out to be a year of resolution, resilience and recovery. So let me toss it right back to you. What is it likely to be?
We hope not a permanent crisis. It is true that this annual meeting, the 54th, is taking place against the most complicated geopolitical backdrop in decades. But rebuilding trust is what we're trying to work on, that even in a world that is fractured, we should try to find areas where we can collaborate and just look at future pandemics, look at cybersecurity, look at climate change. These questions are transboundary and it can only be fixed by collaboration between countries.
You know, when you talk about collaboration, I want to talk about the Global Cooperation Barometer that the World Economic Forum has put together with McKinsey, which looks at trade, innovation, climate, health, peace and security as the overarching themes. There's a reversal. Global cooperation is not doing as well as you would like or as well as we've seen in the past few decades. How worried are you?
We are worried, but especially on the geopolitical piece. Because since 2014, the cooperation has gone down, but since 2020 it has plummeted. We see wars happening at the same time, Ukraine, Gaza, the difficult situation in the Red Sea, and we're very worried for an escalation. Some of the other areas is a bit more optimistic, and also in the barometer it shows on, for example, climate and energy, but also on technology. There has been some positive development, but overall, we say that the global cooperation has been reduced by 2%.
And especially trade, I mean, that's been impacted as well on account of the many tensions that we just spoke of. So let's address the geopolitical concerns. Is that the overarching risk here that leaders are talking about? You've continued today, in fact, here in Davos, there's a meeting of national security advisors on the Russia-Ukraine issue. What's the hope at this point on that situation?
So history has shown us that every war needs to end, but we would like these wars to end sooner than it looks today. But then there has also to be a willingness to stick to international law, the UN Charter, and territorial integrity. What our biggest worry is that if there is more conflicts and if the conflicts do escalate, it will also have very negative impact on all the other areas, being trade, prosperity, growth, also the cooperation when it comes to establishing traffic rules for the new technologies, and also on climate. So geopolitical challenges is something that is very, very serious for this meeting. That's clear.
But what is the hope and the expectation, the outcome of the National Security Advisor meeting that's currently underway here in Davos?
So there are more than 70 national security advisors here today. They have had meetings from the morning, and they're looking at the peace formula for Ukraine. And I'm glad so many nations with different backgrounds, including India, South Africa, also the Global South is here, and looking at is there a way to end this war based on the principles I already mentioned? And look, Russia has had also a lot of losses. They have probably lost close to 300,000 soldiers. They lost more than half of their tanks. And they're also seeing the economic impact on it. So I hope there is also readiness on Mr. Putin's side to end this war. But we'll see. I think this is extremely complicated, and there is a lot of prestige related to this. And who are the losers? The losers are the civilians. It's enormous humanitarian consequences in Ukraine on a daily basis, but also look at Gaza. The Gaza situation is still deteriorating, big humanitarian sufferings, and we have been worried that the Gaza war could also get out of control, spread to Lebanon, Syria, Iraq. Hasn't happened so far, and I think that is due also to shuttle diplomacy, not at least from also Secretary Tony Blinken of the US that will be with us here in Davos.
Yes, Anthony Blinken expected to be here in Davos as well. But, you know, you talked about the war in Gaza as well as the possibility of it spreading to other regions. And we're starting to see the impact of what's happening with the Red Sea and the Houthi attacks on trade. And of course, the US now, along with its partners and its allies, taking preemptive action. How is that being read at this point in time? Do you see that significantly impacting trade in the near term?
So what was impacting trade was a situation where the Houthis created a situation where shipping and ships were concerned about using the Red Sea, de facto the Suez Canal.
Yeah.
And the US and UK and other nations said that could not continue. A group like the Houthis could not close one of the most important trading routes of the world. That would also bring up the oil price. It will have negative impact. But short term, of course, this is creating challenges also because the attacks will lead to further attacks. But what the Americans have said that their aim is then to make the capacities of the Houthis dramatically reduced. So we'll see what unfolds in the coming days, but it hasn't had such a negative impact on the oil price and the global stock market as maybe feared by some people.
Yes, that's absolutely right. We haven't seen enormous volatility in either of the markets at this point in time. But let's talk about India. We have a large Indian delegation. In fact, the promenade has pretty much been taken over by India, whether it's government, state governments, or corporate India. What's the mood on India in 2024?
One word, bullish, still. India, in our view and from the World Economic Forum, is going to be the fastest growing of the large economies also this year. I have used this analogy about the snowball. So if you start with the snowball on top of this mountain, even if it's that small, it starts to roll, it goes faster and faster and gets bigger and bigger. And this is what now is happening in India, going from a $3 trillion US economy to a $10 trillion US economy in the years to come, provided, of course, that the reforms do continue, that education is a priority, making sure also that red tape and good governance is at the top of the agenda.
Well, you know, speaking of governance, it's not just India, but more than, 40 countries go to the elections in 2024, including big ones like the US, UK, of course, India as well. So politics is going to be front and center through the year. How are business leaders looking at this?
I think there is big suspense related to some of the elections. I think especially a lot of business leaders follow the elections in the US. That's the largest economy in the world still, 25%. And we know there are a lot of policy changes possibly anticipated if there is a change in the presidency. I think there is less suspense related, for example, to the elections in Russia.
Yes, I would imagine that there's no suspense there when we talk about Russia.
And on the Indian elections?
What's the view on the Indian elections?
No, how would you rate the suspense?
I think we'll just have to wait till May or perhaps around that time to find out how India does. But at this point in time, the polls seem to indicate that we could see a return of the government. But as I said, we will have to wait to see. But let's talk about themes that you expect to be bullish on, or trends that you're going to be watching out for outside of what we spoke of through 2024. What's the one thing that gives you hope, and what's the one thing that you are most worried about?
Yeah, just to be serious also about the Indian piece, it's the largest democracy in the world. So when 1.4 billion people go to the polls, that's something to be optimistic about. And the fact that one has democracy like that is also doing pretty well now. I'm positive on the global economy in the sense that we could have been in a global recession. And it seems like there's going to be a soft landing for the economy. If we can get back more close to global trend growth of 3.8%, that's also important for eradicating poverty and creating prosperity moving forward. My biggest worry, what keeps me up at night, is that some of these wars can get out of control, more nations joining, and that it can escalate and also then be devastating when it comes to all the other things that we want to achieve on the economy side, trade side, climate cooperation, and also on future protection when it comes to pandemics.
Okay, so that's the perfect opportunity for me to walk across to our Davos mood board and get it started with you, Borge. So we've got a red marker and a green one. So the red, obviously, risk, and the green, what you're most hopeful for. So what's the mood in Davos? How would you sum it up on the red side and the green side?
So on the red side, I think it's concerns for escalation of wars. Mm-hmm. Sorry, it was a bit long.
No, I got that. And green?
It's relatively positive outlook for the economy.
Relatively positive outlook for the economy. So I'm just going to say you're a little bit more optimistic about economic recovery.
Yeah. That's well.
Oh, okay.
Well said.
Economic recovery. My fingers are frozen. My handwriting is actually not that bad.
No, but it's much better than me. And I would have been so worried doing it because now you do the spelling always on your iPhone. So I would have been very worried
about the spelling.
A typo, huh? Wow, that would be very embarrassing.
No, it would have been. I'm glad I got the spellings right. Perhaps not so much the handwriting. Borge, it's been an absolute pleasure. Many thanks for joining us. Appreciate your time and we wish you the very best of luck with the 54th annual meeting here in Davos. We are going to take a break here. The conversations continue. Don't go anywhere. We're back in a moment with more.